Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we're going to be breaking down one of the most prestigious tournaments in all of the year on the PGA Tour, the 2025 Memorial Tournament. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about the host course itself, Muirfield Village. We're going to tell you what makes this tournament and this specific event unique this week on the PGA Tour. And then we're going to take a look at the statistics and take a look at the board and see if we can identify some golfers who are going to be good for your DFS lineups, betting cards, or one and done entries here this week. Now, if you have not already, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That way you can be with us for the rest of the PGA Tour season. We are closing in on 1,000 subscribers. We're at 976 last time I checked. So any help towards that goal of 1,000 would be a huge help. So if you've not subscribed already, please help me out and get that done. If you're listening on audio, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube as well, because like I said, we're closing in on that goal of 1,000 and every single subscriber counts. Now, not only will you get the rest of our golf content the rest of the PGA Tour season, but you're also going to get all of our best ball content over the summer for both NFL and college football. And then once we get back to the regular season, college football and college basketball content coming at least once a week. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in and let's talk about Muirfield Village. All right, so the PGA Tour heads to Muirfield Village this week, which is in Dublin, Ohio, and it is a par 72. It is going to rate out at about 7,600 yards, but those specs themselves do not tell the full story of this golf course. This golf course is considered to be the pride and joy, the magnum opus of one Jack Nicklaus and his course design career. Basically, Jack Nicklaus, one of the best golfers to ever grace planet Earth. You could argue top one, you could argue two. I think that's a debate for another time, but one of the best golfers to ever grace the planet. He had a architect career as well, kind of after his playing days, or really kind of during the tail end of his playing days. And this course near his hometown in Ohio is considered to be his prize jewel. Now, why is that the case? Well, Jack Nicklaus was not exactly like the king of golf course architecture. He's nowhere near as good of an architect as he was as a player. A lot of Jack Nicklaus courses kind of eschew, a lot of the finer points of golf course architecture in favor of being very aesthetically pleasing and in favor of being golf courses that Jack himself would like to play. For instance, Jack Nicklaus always favored a fade off the tee. And a lot of Jack Nicklaus's golf courses favor a fade for a right-handed golfer off the tee, which for a left-handed golfer will be a draw. So sorry to all lefties. That's why lefties don't necessarily succeed all that well at Jack Nicklaus golf courses. But anyway, this is like the best course Jack designed, because what Muirfield Village is designed to do is designed to give a major championship test, even though this event is not a major championship, but it's Jack's major championship, right? This is the event that is hosted by Jack Nicklaus because it's at his course, right? And so this event every year is going to play like a major championship. It is going to feature firm and fast greens. It is going to feature thick rough. It is going to feature, pretty much leverage on every hole, that you can be aggressive and go out and birdie it, or you could have a disaster happen. You could end up with bogey or worse, because of the fact that Jack Nicklaus, he wants this to be a major championship test. So he designed it with a lot of US Open characteristics. The rough is going to be super, super thick. The greens are going to be super, super firm and fast. So what that ends up creating is it ends up creating a long and difficult golf course, not that dissimilar to a lot of the other long and difficult golf courses that we see year in and year out on the PGA Tour, like Bay Hill, like Torrey Pines, like Riviera. But this one's kind of unique in that this one does truly look like a major championship. Now, what does that do for our handicap this week? Well, first off, a lot of golfers tend to play Jack Nicklaus golf courses very well. You look at other Jack Nicklaus golf courses that you see year in, year out, at PGA National, at Valhalla last year hosted the PGA Championship, Castle Pines last year. You just kind of see, a recurring group of Jack Nicklaus kind of experts that kind of pop up, right? And with this course being its very kind of unique major championship-like test, course history here does tend to be pretty important. So what you can do is you can really look at guys who play well at this golf course and really evaluate it from that based off the handicap that what we should be seeing. And so what this week does more so than any is it allows golfers to separate tee to green more so than pretty much any other golf course on the PGA Tour. And here's what I mean by that. With the driver in the bag, or the driver out of the bag, I guess I should say. The driver is going to be the club that most are hitting off the tee, right? But this is a golf course where accuracy is rewarded more than distance, which sounds counterintuitive for a long golf course. But what ends up happening is this golf course actually has wide fairways. And so wide fairways with thick rough alongside it favors accuracy players over distance, because what it means is that there's a chance that accuracy players are going to hit significantly more fairways. And it also means that there's a significant penalty for not finding finding it. It's the exact opposite of you think of like a Torrey Pines or a Winged Foot, where the fairways are so narrow that even the most accurate players can't hit the fairways. And so you might as well just be swinging, a wedge from the rough as opposed to a 7-iron, right? But this is not that. The fairways here are wide enough that accurate players are going to be able to routinely find the fairway. And then once you find the fairway, this is a very much second shot approach dependent golf course. The greens themselves are very small, they're very firm and fast, and there's such varying lengths of holes. There's 4 par threes of varying length, the par fours are varying length, the par fives are varying length, right? It's a par 72, like we mentioned. And so with their holes being such varying length, you're going to use every club in your bag on the second shot, and that second shot can be what carries you to victory here this week, because these greens are super small, super firm, super fast. If you're dialed in with approach, you're going to be able to separate this week. And then if you do miss the green, which there will be missed greens because this is a difficult golf course, then around the green play and scrambling is going to come into play quite a bit. And it's mostly going to be thick rough that you're going to be scrambling from. Like I said, this thick rough kind of surrounds the entire golf course. And so it does surround the greens. There are some bunkers, but thick rough is going to be what you're going to be chipping from more often than not. Some guys have a knack for that, some guys don't. But at the end of the day, what you end up seeing is if there's ever a week to go with team no putt, this is the week, because you're just able to separate with the rest of your bag so much here that you can genuinely, separate off the tee, but really on approach and with your around the green play, that you can be a mediocre putter here and still win. Scotty Scheffler almost won this golf tournament 2 years ago, losing 9 strokes putting because he was so good tee to green that he would just, he was able to miss the putts and still contend, right? And then sure enough, right after that, Scotty Scheffler switches putters, and then he goes on one of the best stretches in the history of golf that we've ever seen. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, this is a tournament where you're not necessarily going to win or lose it with the putter, but you can really win or lose it with your all-around tee to green play, every facet in the bag. But more so than the other two, it is going to be an approach play and putting golf course. And so what that means is when we're looking at our key stats this week, our number one key stat is going to be stroke gain on approach. It's important every week on the PGA Tour, but it's really important this week at this golf course. But also, I think with that being said, I think you can look at some other ancillary approach stats, such as greens in regulation percentage or greens in regulation gained, as well as good drive percentage. So good drive percentage, what it does is it looks at A, did you hit the fairway? And B, if you miss the fairway, did you hit the green? Because even if you miss the fairway here, you're going to be in that thick rough. And if you give yourself chances to hit the green from the thick rough, as opposed to, being in the trees or being in the water, then I think that could be a successful route as well. Off the tee, the stat I'm going to be looking at is total driving, because like I said, I do think it is important to be accurate here, but distance obviously never hurts. And then I do think around the green play is going to be super important here. Now, in terms of putting, I am going to look at putting on fast bent grass greens, because that's what these are. I've listened to some podcasts recently that say that, valuing grass type when you look at putting is irrelevant. I strongly disagree with that. I think if you've ever played golf at any level, you're more comfortable putting on one surface than another. Like, I live in North Carolina. I play a lot of rounds on bent grass greens. I am much more comfortable putting on bent grass than on Bermuda, especially like a really grainy Bermuda. That's just me. That's my personal preference. And I know these guys on the PGA Tour have their own personal preference, right? So I do think that I'm going to be looking at putting on fast bent grass greens, because that's what they're going to see this week. And I'm going to certainly be looking at comp course performance, how guys do it, other firm and fast and difficult golf courses. So my specific comp courses that I'm looking at, Valhalla is number 1, Augusta National is number 2. This course does kind of have a little bit of an Augusta feel to it, with the wide fairways and the long distance, and the emphasis on approach play. And then I also think BMW Championship courses are a pretty good look. Like, I'm talking like Olympia Fields, which is where John Rahm and Victor Hovland have won. And, look who's won it. Memorial, John Rahm and Victor Hovland, right? But those are basically, the BMW Championship really lends itself to being firm and fast bent grass golf courses in the Midwest that generally play pretty difficult. So I think you can look at a few of those for comp course success. And then Bay Hill, home of the Arnold Palmer Invitational, another firm and fast, long, difficult golf course. That one's just in Florida, so the agronomy is a little bit different, but the formula for finding success is still pretty much the same. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then let's take a look All right. Now, if you've been with us all season, you know that when I mention the rabbit hole, I'm not referring to an actual rabbit hole, but I'm talking about the rabbit hole, which is a tool from BetSperts Golf, which allows you to use all different kinds of filters and conditions in order to really isolate the micro skills and statistics that you want to look at for a golfer on a specific week. It has allowed me to really find some guys that I might not have otherwise found. And I think it is the best data site around. If you're looking for ways to analyze golf data and create custom models off of it, if you're serious about golf, DFS, and betting, I highly recommend the rabbit hole from BetSperts Golf. All right, so here's our custom model and the stats we looked at this week. So we already mentioned off the tee, I'm looking at total driving as a big time stat, which basically combines the distance and accuracy ranks. So basically, you're getting points for being like both long and accurate off the tee here. So number one, no surprises, Scotty Scheffler, followed by Taylor Pendrith, Davis Thompson, Sungjae Im, and Corey Connors. Next, I want to look at good drive percentage, which we already talked about earlier. Best in the field in that regard, we got Matty Schmid, Daniel Berger, Jacob Bridgman, JJ Spawn, and Ryan Gerard. Then I wanted to look at strokes gain approach for the calendar year 2025. Who is the best in the field? Scotty Scheffler, Steph Straka, Shane Lowry, Colin Morikawa, and JJ Spawn. Then when you filter out and just do long golf courses since the start of 2024, I want to look at approach on long golf courses because those tend to give you the types of shots that you're going to see here, right? Where you're going to use every club in your bag on approach. And the best in the field in that regard, we've got Scotty Scheffler, Corey Connors, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, and then JJ Spawn and Tony Finau tied for fifth. And then I also want to look at approach on courses with small greens because I do think that is a skill. I really do. I think that being able to hit the green and put yourself in advantageous situations on small greens is definitely something that is going to be utilized this week. Best in the field in that regard, we've got Scheffler, Thomas, Hoagie, Akshay Bhatia coming in at fourth, and Sepp Straka coming in fifth. The rest of the top 10 there, I really do like the rest of that top 10 as well. Tony Finau, sixth, Xander Schauffele, seventh, JJ Spawn, 8, Aaron Rye, 9, Shane Lowry, 10, and Victor Hovland, 11. Like that's a who's who of approach guys that we're going to be looking at on this golf course, right? Now, scrambling in general from difficult golf courses is something that I wanted to look at this week. Just who is able to get up and down when they need to. Now, this doesn't necessarily factor in just around the green play or just putting, but just your overall ability to get up and down. Best in the field, Scheffler, Matsuyama, McCarthy, Noren, Schauffele. Then when you filter out and do just the rough, best in the field at scrambling from the rough, Akshay Bhatia, Harry Higgs, Hideki Matsuyama, Mackenzie Hughes, and Andrew Novak. Then when you look at just bogey avoidance on difficult golf courses, Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, and Russell Henley. Now, though, another stat that I did want to look at was birdie or better percentage on par fives. So basically, here at Muirfield Village, 14 holes play over par. 4 of them play under par on average. Those 4 holes are all par fives. You're going to have to be able to score on the par fives this week if you want to be able to win this golf tournament because there's just not a whole lot of birdie opportunities out there on the other holes. So the best players in the field, par 5 birdie or better in the calendar year 2025, Scotty Scheffler, Sepp Straka, Matty Schmid, Siwoo Kim, and Cam Davis rounding out that top 5. Then when you look at just strokes gain putting on fast bent grass greens only, we got McCarthy, Grazerman, Schauffele, Schmid, and Colley is that top 5. Now we start getting into like the comp courses and like the ancillary courses, right? So instead of doing like a big list of comp courses this week, I just did last 3 years long and difficult golf courses. Who are the best in the field? Scheffler, Schauffele, Morikawa, Henley, Hovland, Oberg, Matsuyama, M, Fleetwood, Homa. That's a pretty solid list right there. Now, I also did just Muirfield Village. So the best guys in the field at Muirfield Village, Scheffler, Morikawa, Cantlay, Schauffele, and Fitzpatrick as the top 5. Rounding out the top 10, Finau, Siwoo Kim, Max Homa, Jordan Spieth, and Victor Hovland. And then lastly, I want to look at just Jack Nicklaus golf courses since COVID, last 5 years. Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, Tony Finau, Russell Henley, Justin Thomas, Shane Lowry, Matt Fitzpatrick as your top 10. Now, interestingly enough, Morikawa, has won here when it was the Workday Charity Open in 2020. So one thing that's very unique about this course, they played in 2020 during the COVID times. They played back-to-back events here, the Workday Charity Open, which was kind of like the easy Muirfield Village, and then they just let the rough grow out and let the fairways get super firm and fast and the greens get super firm and fast before they played the Memorial, and everybody complained about how firm and fast it was, and then that was won by Jon Rahm the very next week. So just something interesting if you are looking into course history, that this course did host 2 events in 2020. And then after that, coincidentally, the course kind of got redone. A lot of the greens and fairways got just totally redone. And so what you saw in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024 is kind of that new redesign, right? And then also, interestingly enough, you got some more interesting bits of course history here. In 2021, Jon Rahm was up by 6 shots on Saturday and then got pulled off the course because he tested positive for COVID. I remember watching that live. It was crazy. And then in 2023, Colin Morikawa was in like the second to final pairing and withdrew from a back injury. So I don't know if he's getting credit for those 3 rounds in this figure, but he was playing very well when he withdrew, which is not something that you see every day. And it did not linger after the fact anyway. So anyway, just a few interesting bits of course history here that this event has that some other events don't, because some other events are a little more straightforward. All right, now here's what we got this week. For the custom model, when you throw all those stats in, number 1 is Scottie Scheffler. That is no surprise. Personally, I don't think you can make his odds on draft or his DraftKings price high enough or his odds in betting short enough, like relative to how good he's playing. Like, he's just so good at golf. It's just crazy. Like, what he did last week at the Charles Schwab Challenge was just casually lead the entire field in strokes gained tee to green, and was a slight negative with the putter, and it was still good enough for 4th. Like, he's just so good tee to green that's what he does, right? And that's what he's done here at this golf tournament. He's gained over 10 strokes tee to green in each of the last 3 trips to this golf tournament. I think this is the perfect spot for him. I think if you have him remaining in your one and done, I think this is literally the best spot remaining for Scottie Scheffler in one and done. And so in his last 3 starts, he's gained at least 10 strokes tee to green in all 3 of them. He's done it the last 3 times he's come to this golf course. Like, yeah, it's quite likely that he's going to gain 10 strokes tee to green again, which is going to mean that he's likely to finish in, if not the first place, second or third, right? Now, second is where this model gets really interesting. This is a guy I really like this week. This is Colin Morikawa. So I am not a big Morikawa fan, but there's some oddities on his profile that I think that everything is really trending towards Colin Morikawa winning this week, right? So first off, here's what's really interesting about Morikawa. Did you know that Colin Morikawa this season has not played in an event that was not a signature event or a major? He has not played in a weaker field event. And so I think that's kind of skewing his stats a little bit, as he doesn't have, the Byron Nelsons and, the Houston Opens of the world kind of propping up his stats against weak fields. Every event, he's been up against the best of the very best, right? And with Colin Morikawa, what you always worry about is his short game, and you generally don't worry about his iron game or his accuracy, right? Well, the short game recently has been really good. The iron game is not. So I think looking at long-term what he's done in his career, I think it's much more likely that the irons are going to bounce back and that the short game might continue the little hot streak that it's on. Also, like we mentioned, he is the king of Jack Nicklaus designs. He's won at Concession. He has won at this golf tournament. He almost won at Valhalla. This is just a great spot to play Colin Morikawa, and I think that Morikawa is going to be, of all the guys not named Scotty, he would probably be the one that I would be most inclined to have in my DraftKings lineups out of that top group, and most inclined to bet outright out of that top group. Now, number 3 is Xander Schauffele. 4 is Sepp Straka. 5 is Victor Hovland. 6 is Hideki Matsuyama. 7, Ludwig Oberg. So let's go ahead and talk about Ludwig while we're here, right? So Ludwig, in my opinion, this is a dream of a course for Ludwig. Ludwig is very long off the tee. He is also very accurate off the tee. He is also at his best at long golf courses. But the short-term profile for Ludwig has been quite bad. Basically, ever since he won the Genesis Invitational, the only tournament where he's finished inside the top 20 is the Masters. And that was off the heels of a super hot putter. His iron game has been super erratic since winning the Genesis. He's lost strokes on approach in 5 out of 7 tournaments. He has lost around the green in 4 out of 7 tournaments. He's lost with the putter in 4 out of 7 tournaments. Like, this is just not the type of recent form profile that you want to see. But in terms of dialing up a golf course that would be great for Ludwig Oberg, I think Muirfield Village is a great golf course for him. And he played here last year. It was his first time here, finished T5 and was negative off the tee, which is not something that you usually see from Ludwig. And you're not seeing it from Ludwig right now. So as bad as he's been recently, dream course fit for Ludwig. I think he is a guy that I am going to be playing a lot of in DFS because I think that a lot of people are going to be off of him. And I think that the way you should be getting access to Ludwig this week is in pure versus pure games like DFS, where everybody else's opinion of him is going to be low because of his recent form, but I'm going to be higher on him because of his long-term course fit. Now, 8, 9, and 10 in my model, we got Russell Henley, Tommy Fleetwood, and Alex Noren. Now, that does it for the model conversation, right? So what I do want to mention is that if you do want to know the final top 10 for my model, I do make the model every week. I tinker with it all week long. If you want to know who makes the final model top 10, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks. I post the full model top 10 as well as my DFS core plays on DraftKings and FanDuel, as well as a full write-up of why they're my core plays. So if you want all that information, subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks. And then also, if you're interested in more information from me, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike's Money Picks. And then you can also join me in the Fantasy Corner Discord. The Fantasy Corner Discord is a community of a bunch of really smart people who play DFS for a lot of really different sports, including golf, including NBA, including MLB, including NFL and college football. So if you're interested in people to talk DFS with, it's absolutely a place to go. I cannot recommend it enough. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick breather and let's go ahead and take a look at the board, talk about some DFS betting and one and done thoughts, and then we'll be done. All right, so like we talked about during the model segment, I am just super convinced that Scotty Scheffler is going to win this golf tournament. Like, I just think that it's a dream course fit for him. I think that he's playing the best golf on planet Earth. He checks off all the boxes for what we're looking for. He is both long and accurate off the tee. He is the world's best approach player. He's one of the world's best around the green players. And oh, by the way, he learned how to putt the golf ball. Like, I just think this is a dream spot for Scheffler. He has finished first, third, and third in his last 3 trips here. He has finished first, and fourth in his last 3 events. Scotty Scheffler is the best golfer on planet Earth. There is no Rory McIlroy in this field. I think Scheffler is significantly the best golfer in the field. He would be my pick to win when odds are not considered. I do not bet Scotty Scheffler to win golf tournaments, though, because I just don't agree with betting a golfer to win with those short odds. But I think he's by and away the favorite to win this week. And so here's what that means for DFS formats on DraftKings and FanDuel. He's significantly more expensive than everybody else, but like, I think you can really piece together a lineup starting with him this week. And I really think it's easier than last week, because last week, when you looked at the bottom of the field at the Charles Schwab Challenge, it was quite bad. Like, you didn't really want to play a whole lot of guys from the bottom of the field. This is a signature event. This is a 72 golfer field. So the guys that are at the bottom of this field are still actually, good at golf. And so I think that it's quite possible to build these Scheffler lineups with some of these guys in the 6K range, which we're going to talk about later. Now, also, another thing you got to consider is that with it being a signature event, with it being a 72-man field, there is a cut this week, top 50 in ties, which I like. I'm in favor of. I don't know who asked for the signature event format, but I don't like it. And the longer it continues, the more I really don't like it, because they seem resigned to just do it at the same courses every year in and year out. Like, I would love to see like the Wyndham be a signature event one year and me be able to go to a signature event selfishly because I lived 20 minutes from Sedgefield. But basically, I don't know who asked for the signature event format, but golf tournaments are just so much better when they have a cut. So I like that this one has a cut. Personally, I would rather see it as like a 100-man field cut to 50 as opposed to a 70-man field cut to 50. But what it does for you in DFS formats like FanDuel and DraftKings is it gives significantly higher made cut equity to the guys at the bottom of the board, which makes it, again, infinitely easier to build a lineup with Scotty Scheffler at the top, knowing that you're going to have to play some of those guys near the bottom of the board. So let's go ahead and talk about this next group of players. Schauffele and Thomas are probably going to be 2 guys that I fade this week. I'm just a little bit concerned about their recent form coming in. Schauffele has been good, not great here, pretty consistently between 8th and 25th every time out. Thomas has been a super mixed bag here. I just don't really buy either of these 2 guys with where they're at right now. Both of them just seem to have like plugs in their game coming up week in and week out. With Schauffele at the PGA, it was the iron play. With Thomas, it can be the putter anytime. I'm just not sold on them. If I'm playing anybody not named Scheffler, like if I'm playing these non-Scheffler lineups, I'm going to probably look to get two guys in the 9K range. We already mentioned my affinity for Colin Morikawa. Patrick Cantlay has incredible history here. He missed the cut here last year, but he has won at this event twice, along with a third and a fourth place finish. It's a great Patrick Cantlay course. I think this is a great spot to play him. I think this is a great Tommy Fleetwood course also. It's a course that favors accuracy over distance. He's only played this event twice, was 20th here last year, but coming in off of two pretty good finishes is Tommy Fleetwood. So I do think that this is a pretty good spot for Fleetwood. I've already mentioned my affinity for Oberg. And then when it comes to Hideki Matsuyama, I'm all over Hideki this week also. He has won at this event before. If we're talking about this event as being an approach and around the green type of golf course, that's perfect for Hideki Matsuyama, right? Like that, those are the two strengths of his game. He has won at long and difficult golf courses before. And with that win here back in 2014, he also has more top 10 finishes as well. I think it's a great spot for Hideki at $9,000 on DraftKings. In the 8K range, so I think that the top of the 8K range would be really stretching it to kind of fit with a Scotty lineup, but I do really love Hovland, Straka, and Lowry. I think they're all great course fits. Like you just look at the approach numbers. That's all you need to know. Like these guys are great on approach. They all have good history here. You know, Hovland won in 2023. Straka was T5 last year. Lowry has multiple top 15 finishes. Like there's just a lot to like about all three of those guys. But if I'm playing Scotty lineups, what I'm probably going to do is going to have my second guy in my lineup be from this low 8K range. Siwoo Kim, Tony Finau, Sung J M, Keegan Bradley, Matt Fitzpatrick. I love this group for this golf course, all five of them. Siwoo Kim fits the approach around the green archetype, and he's playing some really good golf. He was 8th at the PGA, which is not a course that we would think of being conventionally good for Siwoo Kim, but Siwoo Kim is accurate off the tee. He's a great approach player. He's a great scrambler, and at this event, that has shown up. He's finished in the top 20 each of the last 5 trips to this golf course. So I think there's something to be said for Siwoo Kim playing here this week. Tony Finau has everything trending in the right direction, and Tony Finau, interesting enough stat, all of his wins in the continental United States have been on bent grass greens. He's won at Liberty National. He's won at the 3M Open, TBC Twin Cities, and Detroit Golf Club, the Rocket Mortgage Classic. This would be another one that he could add to that list. And I really like what I see within the recent form where his around the green play is back to what it was when he was in his prime a few years ago. His approach play is back to being kind of hit or miss, but more often hit than not. His driver has been cooking pretty much the entire year. With Tony, you never know what you're going to get with the putter, but this is the type of golf course where you don't need to be, putting in from all over the place. And he has played well here before, and he's played well on bent grass greens before. So I think Tony Finau checks a ton of boxes. I'm going to be heavy on Finau this week as well. Now, Matt Fitzpatrick is another guy that I got to talk about. So basically, Fitzpatrick had been so bad to start the year, but the last 2 events he's played, T23 at the Truist, T8 at the PGA, what it tells me is, hey, you just play Matt Fitzpatrick at long and difficult golf courses and let the rest take care of itself. And you know what? This is a long and difficult golf course. So I'm kind of in on Matt Fitzpatrick this week. And I kind of hope that he ends up being under-owned in DFS for that reason. All right, now the 7K range on DraftKings is very interesting. So you got Sam Burns and Denny McCarthy, both of whom have good history here. Burns back-to-back top 16 finishes, McCarthy a T5 and a second in the last 3 years. Like both those two guys can take over a golf tournament with their putter. And like I said, I don't think this is the course where you necessarily can win it with your putter. You have to bring a solid tee to green game, but if they are just able to tread water with their tee to green game, both those two guys could win it with their putter. Just absolutely flip what I'm talking about. Now, Robert McIntyre, I love this week. I just think McIntyre is at his best at difficult golf courses. I don't think he's a birdie fest type of guy, and that bears itself out in the stats. And I just think this is a really good spot for him, right? Like he's coming in off the T6 at the Charles Schwab where he really didn't drive or chip it all that well, but his approach play was great. His approach play has been pretty much great for most of the season with a few exceptions. And his putter, which has historically been a strength, has not been a strength in 2025. Well, it was back last week. I think this is a great spot for Robert McIntyre. I'm going to be getting him a lot in DFS. And I think if I was to bet a long shot to win this golf tournament, he would be one of my favorite long shot bets. Aaron Rai missed the cut last week, Colonial, basically just due to putting, not due to anything else. His history here is not great, but he's one of the best approach players on planet Earth, specifically with long irons. You got to consider him for that reason. And then also in the 7K range, I got to mention my guy Akshay. The Colonial last week was a positive event for me in DFS because I played a ton of Scotty, which didn't hurt, even though he finished in fourth. But a lot of my lineups were Scotty with Akshay and Harry Hall and Bud Cauley as the second guy in. Like that was kind of where I was living, was just Scotty and those guys, right? And I had some 7K guys who were good, like Pearson Cootie. Andrew Putnam was decent for me, but I just got enough from that little mid tier of Hall, Bhatia, and Cauley that I was able to have a really good week in DFS, right? And so Bhatia is another guy that I'm going to go with. He's really good on courses with small greens. I don't necessarily know what it is. Maybe it's just because he's a pin hunter, but he's really good on courses with small greens, really good on approach last week at the Charles Schwab. This is a guy who generally doesn't really have a whole lot of weaknesses in his game, but it just really wasn't playing well for a few months. I think he's got it back, and I think this is a really good course for him. So Akshay Bhatia definitely going to be a guy that I'm going to be going with in DFS. Let's see what he did here last year. T22, yeah, I think this is a pretty good spot for him. Going to be going with him. Wyndham Clark is going to be a guy that I am going to fade this week. So we talk about this course as being an approach and around the green golf course. Wyndham Clark's a driver putter guy. Same with Minwoo Lee. Same with a Taylor Moore type, if Taylor Moore's even playing this week. I just want to avoid the driver putter guys, right? I want to play guys who are good at approach and around the green. And that leads me to Andrew Novak. Andrew Novak last week was actually second in the field tee to green, only to Scotty Scheffler at the Charles Schwab. Just gave it away with the putter. If he had putted better, he probably would have won the golf tournament. And his tee to green game has just been absolutely on fire. The PGA Championship, he had one bad round. I'm not going to hold that against him. The rest of his kind of game log and his stat sheet look really, really good. Andrew Novak definitely going to be a big time play for me here this week. Great approach player, great around the green player. I mentioned him already, but I am going to go back to Bud Cauley. He's probably my favorite all-around play in the 6K range just because of how good golf he's playing, and he's really doing it a lot of difficult golf courses as well. And then Max Grazerman is an interesting one. So he's just a really good bent grass putter, but he also had all facets of his game really working at the Charles Schwab and really at the PGA as well. I just think he's playing good golf right now, and I don't think that a whole lot of people are going to go after him. So I do think that Grazerman is a guy that is worth a look at $6,700. Sam Stevens is a guy that just generally plays well at long golf courses, so I think he is worth a look. I think that Matty Schmidt is going to be very popular, but I think he's probably going to be a chalky play in DFS that I'm going to fade. You look at what he did at the Charles Schwab, and it was a lot with the putter. And that worries me. I don't necessarily want to play a guy that is dependent on the putter. So I really just think I'm probably going to be off of Matty Schmidt, but I do expect him to be popular. I do see the merits in playing him, but I'm probably not going to get there. My 6K range, I'm really probably going to just stick with, as of right now, I'm really looking at Cauley, Grazerman, probably a little Gerard just because of how well he's playing, probably a little Sam Stevens because of the course archetype, maybe a little Dietrich. But yeah, I'm really going to have to keep doing some deep dives. So I want to find anybody else in that 6K range that I'm going to play. All right, last thing that we're going to talk about is the one and done. So it's not been a great year for me in one and done, y'all. Heading into this week, I penciled it in preseason to have Scotty Scheffler, right? In one of my entries, I played him at the Players, which was a total waste of playing Scotty Scheffler. But I do think that this week, if you have Scotty Scheffler, you need to play Scotty Scheffler at this golf tournament. This is just a great golf course for Scotty Scheffler. This is just, it's a signature event. It's got a huge purse. If you have him available, it's a great spot for him. I also think with this being a signature event, this is not a week to try to get cute. This is a big boy golf course. We see this golf course won by great golfers year in and year out. We're probably not likely to see some random win this golf tournament. So I really do think I want to stick near the top of the board this week. In the event that you do not have Scotty Scheffler, just play whoever you like near the top of the board. In my case, I've got Collin Morikawa left. I think In some one and dones, I was saving Patrick Cantlay for this spot as well, because he's so good at Muirfield Village. But obviously, I played him at the American Express here in this one. But yeah, looking at what I've got, I think the popular plays this week are probably going to be Victor, Corey Connors, because a lot of people have them available. But yeah, I'm going with Colin, and probably Xander as well in that regard. But I'm going with Colin. I think this is a great Colin Morikawa golf course. I don't see anywhere on the schedule remaining that I'm going to want to use Colin Morikawa. So I think if you have him, then he is absolutely all systems go. This is a great week to play Colin Morikawa. And as I mentioned, if I'm playing anybody not named Scotty Scheffler, then I think that Morikawa is going to be my guy this week. And I'm going to kind of ride or die with Colin Morikawa, which is a scary thing because I'm normally not a Morikawa guy. I'm normally like completely fade the second tier of the PGA Tour golfers kind of guy, because they don't win a whole lot. They don't win as much as they theoretically should be winning. But, if I can't pick Scotty, I got to pick one of them. And my guy this week's going to be Morikawa. I think that of all those guys, I think he is in the best spot. All right, so that's going to do it for this episode, y'all. As we always do here, one of the main sells of what we do is that we give you everything you need to know in 30 minutes or less. We were a little over this week, but that's okay. This is a great golf tournament. It's one of my favorites on the PGA Tour. I would love to have an episode one day where I just sat down and ranked all of the tournaments or all of the golf courses, for that matter, on the PGA Tour. This one will be near the top. Like year in, year out, I love watching this tournament. It looks great on TV. The golf course is a true test, tee to green, full bag. And so I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope that kind of, is evident to you guys in watching or listening to this analysis, right? But anyway, hopefully we gave you guys all that you need to know in a little over 30 minutes. We broke down the course itself. We took a look at the data. We took a look at the boards, and hopefully gave you guys plenty of guys that you can use in your DFS lineups and in your betting cards this week. But yeah, that's going to do it here for this episode. We're going to be back next week talking about the RBC Canadian Open. And then before you know it, we'll be back again talking about the US Open, which is a big one. It's coming back to Oakmont, which is, it's not my favorite US Open venue, but I do think it's going to be a great golf tournament because of all the storylines that we've got coming into it. So make sure you're subscribed. That way you can be with us for the rest of the PGA Tour season, as well as all of our best ball content coming your way this summer. If you're not aware, I did just have a kid. My son Aiden was born almost 3 weeks ago. So it's been kind of slow in terms of like the best ball content so far this year. But I mentioned here on the podcast before, I do teach high school and coach high school sports. So my summer vacation is coming up. You're going to see a ton of best ball content ramping up once school lets out. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. That you can be with us here for all of that. But that's going to do it here for this episode, y'all. Best of luck to you guys this week at the Memorial. Hopefully I was able to give you guys some winning picks for DFS betting and one and done this week. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next.